What is going on, FPL managers? Welcome to a new video from Fantasy Football Scout. I hope you have some breakfast in front of you because we have some appetising content for you to digest. And some of that content might involve a Mr. Ronaldo. And we have Mr. Ronaldo of FPL himself, Mr. Mark Southerns, joining us today. I'm sure he'll hate us for calling him that. And Mr. Gianni Butici, reigning European champion. Who do you want to be, Gianni? Jorginho or someone?
I mean, I thought you were introducing me when you said Ronaldo. So,
so did I, yeah.
I've got the shirt behind me somewhere. No, definitely Jorginho for me, mate. I mean, he's the best player in Europe on current awards, right? On current form and awards.
Well, we're not talking about Jorginho tonight.
You've got to plug Jorginho, haven't you, Gianni, every time. Yeah, my fitness regime is very similar to Ronaldo's, actually, Ted. So, yeah, I like the comparison.
Cold toast and empty tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. Well, we've got lots to get through today. Certainly Mr. Ronaldo to talk about and how we're going to fit him into our teams along with Mr. Lukaku. And even Harry Kane is back on the radar. Saw some moves this morning for that. We'll have a look at our team and maybe some stats if we've got some time. But half an hour before the deadline, we've got lots to digest. I think all of us have made some transfers this week, but only one of us has made two. So let's start off with your team, Mark. Let's go straight into it.
Blimey, okay. Yeah, I mean, I did make these Monday night. And I don't know if you heard, I actually got Luke and as in a call to help me with these too. So yeah, I've taken the hit for Lukaku. Completely seduced by that performance against Chelsea.
You're not the only one.
It was just ridiculous. I don't know what I was really expecting from Lukaku in that first game, but not 8 shots, and I wasn't expecting Chelsea to kind of adjust brilliantly to playing with him immediately. And I look at the Chelsea team with Kovacic, Jorginho and Kante winning the ball, feeding the ball to feet. I look at Mount and Havertz and Werner around him. I look at the 2 fullbacks bumming on. It's just perfect. So I just think in terms of goal involvement this season, I don't think there'll be a player as high as Lukaku for his team. I think I look at Chelsea and think, well, who gets the goals there? There isn't another player who immediately you think 10 goals, do you really?
Absolutely.
So he's got to get them, I would say, half their goals.
So Lukaku's come in for you. What were the other 2 moves you made? But you've made 3 in total, right?
Yeah, so I had Mahrez and Torres. So the situation I was in is quite unique. I had 2 midfielders worth 16 million total that I didn't want anymore because I didn't really want to go forward with 2 City players because of the anxiety with the team sheets that we're going to have again, which, you know, we're sure, Ted, you've got at the moment, right? You've got Mahrez. So I didn't want to carry on with that. So they were always going to go. The plan was going to be Son and Rafinha in. At the time I was mulling over the Lukaku situation, there was some doubts about Son because he had a hamstring strapped up in the game at Wolves. So he wasn't a shoo-in at the time I was considering my transfers. And Rafinha had all the Brazil malarkey, which is now cleared up as well. So now, 6 days later, it's all clear that maybe I should have waited and gone Son and Rafinha, made Son captain. That was my original plan. But in the end, I got Salah and Mbeumo in. I've got to get Mbomo's pronunciation right because that is the correct one. Salah and Mbeumo in, which I kind of regret in a way that I don't have Son and Rafinha, but I do think that teams are going to come my way in terms of looking at the likes of Salah and Mbeumo now because they've got to get Lukaku, and obviously Ronaldo's another factor. So I think at least 1 or 2 cheap midfielders are going to be in most teams from now on, if not a 4-5, if not Mr. Brownhill or Gilmore and so on. I think we're going to see these players playing a crucial role now.
Absolutely. And it seems like it's the year of the premium. So the fact that you've got 3, you're pretty set up for flexibility with the premiums, which is pretty good. And I was seduced by that Lukaku performance as well. So definitely planning to get him. Whether or not it's next week or not is another matter with Ronaldo. So you're captaining Antonio this week. Was that a difficult choice compared to Fernandes or even Lukaku, I dare say?
Well, Son was my default, and if I had Son, I'd probably go with him because he's quite a strong differential around the managers around me. So if you got him, I'd go with him. Antonio, I think it is quite an obvious choice because of the fact that, West Ham at the moment, their confidence is just sky high. The relationship with Benrahma that Antonio's got on the pitch looks like he's going to produce more points every game. He's fit, right? And he's absolutely at full tilt at the moment. I don't see Palace equipped to keep him at bay. Don't think many centre-back pairings are, and as centre-back pairings go, Palaces are learning to play with each other, right? Palace, I think, are a team in big transition. They're not ready to face West Ham in this kind of form. I'd be very surprised if there's not 2 or 3 goals in it for West Ham, and if that's the case, Antonio's chipping in, isn't he?
Absolutely. I think you've both gone Antonio as well, which it just seems like the obvious choice. And I've always said to myself this season, just go with the obvious captain just to reduce that variance or that volatility. But I've gone someone different to that. We'll come out later. Just wanted to touch on your bench. It's not great at the moment. But I think every one of those players you've got in the starting 11, barring injuries or shock droppings or whatever, they're all starters, and I don't think there's any risk of rotation. So you're probably okay, but are you looking to tidy that up in the near future?
Yeah, I was. I mean, without the Ronaldo situation, it was going to be Tsimikas to a 4 million defender probably. That was going to be someone like Livramento, but he's gone up now, so I could do that move, or I could look at just getting Williams in at Norwich for 4 million and pocketing the 0-1. That would be my transfer had Ronaldo not turned up next week, and then that would give me, Veltman and a 4 million defender as subs, right? I mean, I'd expect Williams to play most games for Norwich if I go that route. But now I've got to plan how I'm going to cater for Ronaldo, and so I can go Shaw down to a 4-5 and Fernandes down to a 5 or a 4-5, and then go Perica up to Ronaldo and change my formation to 3 up front. So I can get Ronaldo in 3 moves, which is probably what I'm going to have to do, because the problem we've got is if Ronaldo will start going up in price over the break. I think he's locked for 7 days, isn't he, when he appears in the game? So he's not going to shoot up immediately, but the minute that lock comes off, he'll go up in price, and we'll be paying 0.2 more by the time we get to game week 5. So I think I can do it. I mean, that will give me 13 million. So whatever his price, I've got that little bit extra to handle it. So I think that's what I've got in mind. But then I'm going forward with just Veltman as a sub. So it's risky.
Yeah, it is risky. Ronaldo's just come in. There's no immediate desperation to get him in. We need to see how he, it's Ronaldo, isn't it? We need to see how he beds into that team, but I think there's going to be a few transfers that all of us need to get him in. So, but I think the pressing one is Lukaku. Let's talk more about Lukaku, because not like we have any Chelsea bias in the room. Someone who just bought in Lukaku and a Chelsea fan. Gianni, what do you think? Is he the next best thing? Is he going to be the best premium asset in the game this year, do you reckon?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for me, he will become essential come game week 7. And I know we don't like using that word, but the fixture run, together with what I think will be his form, but also his price point. Like, this is a guy that's at the moment cheaper than Harry Kane, probably going to be cheaper than Ronaldo, cheaper than Salah and Bruno too. So when we're talking about these elite premiums at the very top tier, slightly more affordable. Also, one I think that will be on penalties. Like, we've not spoken about Lukaku's free points, if we like, the easy points. And I don't think Jorginho is going to have a problem giving them to the talisman, the guy whose job it is to score the goals. Lukaku's not missed a pen since 2017. He scored 11 penalties last season for Belgium and Inter. We saw Frank Lampard take penalties off Jorginho for a small amount of time. I think Werner had them for a bit. And Jorginho was cool with that. That's not his job in the team. So the penalty appeal together with the fixtures, and don't forget, like, Lukaku has come into a team that are the best team in Europe. Like, we're the European champions. Okay, possibly not the best team, but certainly the European champions. And he's improved them. So I'm expecting Chelsea to be title contenders, to score loads of goals. I think Mount, Reece James, Chilwell or Alonso, whoever's on the left, these guys are going to start clocking up really good assists as well. We've seen in last season, the assists for the likes of James and Mount should be higher. They will be higher this season.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting this season. I think Chelsea bought in Lukaku, Man United bought in Ronaldo, Liverpool have Van Dijk back, and City are just City. So, I mean, that title, is it wide open? I mean, a lot of people, punditing Chelsea for the title, but has that changed now? What do you think, Mark?
I think it's Chelsea still. I just think Tuchel has got that system set, right? And he's got the players now he needs to exploit it fully. I look at United, they've got to learn to play with Ronaldo. It's not going to immediately going to gel, is it? And they've got so many options. Yeah, I think Ollie's now got to find what his best 11 is. I think we know the Chelsea best 11, and we're going to see it probably today at Anfield. So I think that, I like Chelsea very much, because defensively they're the strongest team in the league, right? We know that. And now they've got, I think, the most effective striker in the league. So I don't see. I mean, interestingly, Ronaldo got 36 goal involvements last season in Serie A. Lukaku got 35. He got 11 assists. So he got one fewer goal involvement, and he's going to be probably $1 million less. And he's playing in a team where I think are more suited to play with him than United are to play with Ronaldo, and he's going to start every game. Yeah, I think Lukaku's the better option at the moment. Plus, we've got that game week 7 thing where you've got to have him for those 5 games because he's going to be captain. Right.
I wonder how many Chelsea players will own by game week 7. Probably 2 or 3, I imagine. But let's talk about Gianni's team. Let's move on. I've got it up here. We've got Sanchez in goal, Alexander-Arnold, Shaw, Ayling, same back four as Mark, and Salah, Fernandes, Greenwood, Barnes. Now tell us about Barnes, Gianni. Are you keeping for Norwich, or is it going to be a last-minute transfer?
Yeah, I mean, I've got one free transfer left. I've made one move already this week. My first transfer of the season, I didn't think would be on a 4.0 million defender, but Livramento came in for Smiskas. Boring move, but didn't want to have to waste a transfer. And Barnes, I'm still not sure on. I was hoping I might see a few rumours on Twitter, things like that, to suggest if he's going to start or not. But look, it's a 3 p.m. kickoff. It's unlikely we're going to hear anything. I'm probably just going to stay with Barnes. I bought Barnes at the start of the season with this Norwich fixture in mind. I don't have Benrahma. If I'd made the move on Sunday or Monday, I don't think I'd be disappointed if I'd gone Barnes to Benrahma's. I know the likes of Az did. But now it's Saturday. Benrahma's gone up in price. Barnes has already dropped. And I was happy waiting. I knew what I was setting myself up for with the price rises and falls. I'm happy just sitting on it, I think. Barnes will be on the chopping block probably next week. And I'm going to need funds to add to my premium forwards that I want to get in. So Barnes will have to come down to a more affordable player. Perhaps someone more affordable than a Benrahma. I might need to look at a 6.0 in Sarr or Traore, or even a 5.5 in Mbeumo like Mark. So yeah, I'm happy with the Norwich fixture. It's risky. I think I'm in 60-40 favour that Barnes starts, because I think Iheanacho probably comes in. How does that affect Barnes? I think Rodgers finds a way. I think he wants Barnes against Norwich. I think he's still one of his favourites, one of his go-tos.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'll be sweating on team news at 2:00.
I can imagine, yeah. No, I had the same dilemma. My transfer was Barnes to Benrahma this week. But I think Norwich fixture is excellent. I think we've been a bit harsh on him. Yes, he's been lacking some fitness, but they had 10 men for most of the last game, and that just really changes a team. So I think Barnes has got a good chance if he starts against Norwich. I will be really annoyed if he does well, because I should have been patient, but a transfer had to be made. So you've made one transfer already, Gianni. Tell us what that was.
Yeah, so it was a really easy one. It was Smiskas out. Even if he does start against Chelsea, I don't want him in my 11. Livramento is the long-term plan. Look, I mean, you could argue it's a waste of a transfer for a bench player. If I was wildcarding next week or the week after, I'd call it a waste as well. But I'm looking at my team, and I'm looking at a lot of teams of people that maybe thought they were going to wildcard come game week 4 to 6. And actually, I don't think they all will now, and I don't think I will. I'm really hoping I don't need to. I want to ideally carry my wildcard into November, December. And with that in mind, Livramento is someone that I want moving forward long term. If I wanted someone short term, Duffy would probably be the better pick, but I want someone long term. I beat the price rise on him, so I bought him in. I think it was Thursday night, possibly Wednesday night. So yeah, that's my one and only boring move. And my plan is to get a little bit of money out of my team next week so I can get premium forwards in. I really want Lukaku, a Barnes downgrade, possibly a Greenwood downgrade when his minutes when he starts rotating. And then Bruno will probably come out for a premium forward too. So yeah, there's plenty of movement there, but I'm very happy with a fair few sort of set and forgets in my team, like Rafinha, for example, Antonio, obviously. But yeah, Danny Ings will be moving next week, and having 2 free transfers will help that.
What about Greenwood, Gianni? What are you going to do with him now?
It's a tough one. With Ronaldo coming in, I still think Greenwood's all right until Rashford's back playing. Because of the McTominay injury, we could see Pogba a bit deeper. Ronaldo is essentially the same as Cavani, right? They're only going to play in that one role. So that doesn't really affect Greenwood massively, because if Cavani or Ronaldo is starting in that 9, then that affects Greenwood, but they're like for like. So yeah, if Greenwood carries on scoring, and if Rashford carries on not making the match day squad because he's not fit enough, then Greenwood's in my team. So I think I've probably got another 2 or 3 weeks with Greenwood. And then soon as I see he's a rotation risk, he doesn't start, or he's getting subbed at 60, he's out. But for the first 2 game weeks, Greenwood's not even been hooked. Ollie's made 3 attacking subs. Greenwood's played 90 in both of them. That's really positive.
Yeah. How about Cavani coming back? How does that change? Is he going to get a look in this year with Ronaldo in the squad, or is he just a dead asset now?
They'll be fighting over the number, won't they? Number 7, Cavani. CR7 will want that. He wants his number and his place in the team. Yeah, I mean, there has been a few rumours that Cavani could make way, go to Juve in a semi-swap deal. I don't think that will happen, but definitely see fewer minutes. We do know with Cavani, though, he can't play twice a week, right? And United are going to play. They're going to go far into the domestic cups. They're going to be in the Champions League. There will be rotation there. It just means we're going to see Greenwood less as the number 9, which is a shame. But to be training with Cavani and Ronaldo for the next 12 to 24 months, Greenwood's just going to have an absolute education. We're going to have a real serious forward on our hand once they move on and Greenwood's a little older.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it'll be interesting to see how that Man United squad develops. It might turn into a City rotation risk by the end of it. We just don't know whether Sancho's going to play on the right or the left, or whether Greenwood plays up top or on the right. We just don't know. So it's an FPL dilemma for us in the future. But yeah, with all the excitement, credit to you for making such a boring transfer, Gianni, compared to Mark's absolute,
Yeah,
wonderful.
I feel better about Gianni's transfer, to be honest. But we'll see. We'll see. It's a minor fun moves, I guess. But I'm not watching any of the games as the action happens today. I'm doing a match of the day challenge, so 10:30 tonight. It's going to be very interesting for me. I hope the Liverpool-Chelsea game is the first one on, because that means there's goals, right? Got to be.
I think I'm going to have to tune into Black Box tonight to watch you and Az with the match of the day challenge, knowing the results as well. If there's a few juicy ones in there, watching you guys is going to be very fun. Mark, I saw your Lukaku move. I was inspired by it, and I've tried all week to try and do the same. And I couldn't do it. I was desperate to keep Bruno, and I was desperate to keep Salah. And the one move I came close to was Trent down to Livramento, and then Ings up to Lukaku. And then I was just looking at Ings versus Brentford and thought, I want to give him one more week, a bit like I want to give Harvey Barnes one more week. So
I think one of the reasons I did it as well was because I knew that most managers wouldn't be in a position to do it without really making sacrifices. Whereas I had 2 players I wanted to get rid of, and Tony, who I thought would go down and has. So it was just set up for me to do it. So let's see.
One player we haven't really talked about is Fernandes and the effect for Ronaldo. What I mean, is he going to lose penalties? Does he become less of an FPL asset? Is his price now overpriced for what he will bring to the table? Mark, do you want to start off?
He's gonna go, isn't he? In most teams, I think. If it's a choice between having Ronaldo or Bruno at this point, depending on what Ronaldo's price comes in at, I don't think you can make a very strong argument for Fernandes unless Ronaldo comes in and shows that he's not going to be a 20-plus goal man this season. And are we going to give it time to assess that? It's very difficult. I mean, I'm probably not going to have. I'm going to keep Fernandes for the Newcastle game and watch what Ronaldo does and how he appears on the pitch, how many minutes he gets and stuff, and listen to some of the press quotes. But after that game, it's very much on my mind that Bruno will probably go, and I've got a feeling most are doing. I mean, some have sacrificed him already, right? I've seen late risers gone Bruno out, and he's brought Kane in, so he's already setting his team up to cater for Ronaldo, and I think a few will be doing that.
Ambitious move.
He will be on pens. There's no doubt about it. I'm really surprised the amount thinking that Bruno might keep set pieces and pens. Ronaldo's terrible at direct free kicks. He'll keep them as well. He went into Madrid. He went into Juve. These guys, these clubs had brilliant set piece specialists and penalty takers. Didn't get a look in. Pjanic never took a free kick at Juve. Dybala never took a pen. These guys didn't get a look in because the man is there. Ronaldo's there. So to think that Bruno's going to keep pens, I feel like is slightly naive. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm willing to put it out there. But Ronaldo on set pieces, he'll also not want to be benched, and he won't want to be subbed early. And Ollie will be scared to sub him early. You sub Ronaldo at 70, 80, he's throwing tantrums.
Well, this is it, right? He's got Cavani and Ronaldo playing for the same position in a few weeks' time. Ollie's not the most experienced manager. He's got to deal with 2 big superstars, 2 big egos, right? I mean, obviously Ronaldo's the biggest of them, but Cavani's not going to go quietly, is he? He's not just going to go, I'll tell you what, boss, you just play me once in a while and I'll sit on the bench and take my money. I'm sure he's going to want to play.
It's all about the influence, isn't it? I mean, Ronaldo and Messi, they're the Michael Jordans, the Tom Bradys, the Roger Federers of this world. They just have so much influence, so much clout that even the manager, even the organisation around them will have to hear what they say and adhere to it. So, yeah, I completely agree with you, Gianni. I think Fernandes is going to lose quite a lot of that influence on the set pieces and penalties.
The only one to be aware of with Ronaldo minutes is before Champions League games. When he dropped out at Juve, it was often before 48 hours later they were travelling and it was a Champions League game. So he occasionally was rotated. So keep an eye on that one. But other than that, he's going to be a shoo-in.
But I think with the pace of the Premier League, it's going to happen more often, right? Surely. I know it's a cliche, but it is a quicker league, right? So
yeah, no doubt in that. It's the pace. I mean, Serie A is like international football, which suits Ronaldo. this is going to be a different gravy.
So for someone who didn't go with Fernandes initially, let's have a look at my team. I've got it up on screen now. Mahrez and Son instead of Fernandes and a cheapie. So obviously Fernandes punished me game week 1, but it wasn't too bad last week. I think it's evened out now, but I'm happy to get rid of both players, Son and Mahrez, which is possibly an advantage now, just to go, oh, let's try and get Lukaku and Ronaldo in. Mahrez, I've decided to keep him for this Arsenal game with no expectation that he'll start, just hope. And if he does start, there's a big chance that he could get some points. I've got Ayling on the bench, but I think both of you are playing in your starting 11, so he could come in for Mahrez if he doesn't get points. Even if he gets a subs appearance, he could get some minutes, but he's definitely going next week regardless of his returns. I've made one move this week. It was Barnes to Benrahma along with the rest of the world. But yeah, 2 free transfers next week, and the plan is to go Mahrez and Ings to Lukaku and Adama Traore, who I rate incredibly. So even though he can't finish, I'm going to get in before everyone else so I can get all of his points.
That's interesting, Ted, that you're going Traore over Sarr. I mean, I look at Sarr and I think he's got a run of 3, which is really quite nice. And yeah, Wolves' fixtures look very good for a sustained period, but the frustration you're inviting by getting Traore in your team is pretty big. Because he's going to get loads of chances, I'll give you that, yeah.
I'm a glutton for punishment, Mark. You know, having Mahrez in the first place, you know, I was so convinced that he was going to start the first 3, and it's just typical Pep. You just can't trust him, which is fine. But with City assets, you've got to keep them for, you know, a few games to give them a chance that they start, because otherwise, what's the point? You know, you know that there's a chance that they're going to get benched, and once they get benched, you ship them off, and you don't give them a chance to get back in the game. So I think this Arsenal fixture is not bad for Mahrez, but again, I don't have any expectation that he's going to start. Captaincy-wise, I've gone with Son, and I'm a little bit worried, to be honest, because I was flitting between Antonio and Son all week. It was one of those. Whenever I watched some content this week, it was changed to Antonio, and then I changed to Son, and again and again and again. I cannot make my mind up. Son is what I've stuck with. He's a bit of a differential option compared to the rest of the FPL world, so we'll see. I think Antonio, probably the overriding reason why I didn't go Captain Antonio is I have 3 West Ham players, and I just wanted to hedge my bets a little bit, because even the West Ham are in incredible form. It's one game in isolation, and you never know what happens in one game. Maybe Palace have a good result there for you know, as an anomaly. So having a captain and 3 West Ham players, all eggs in one basket, right?
The only thing with Son is we haven't seen him with Kane under Nuno, have we? So we don't know what we're going to get. There's a theory that he could play closer to Kane in a 2 almost, rather than out wide. If he's out wide, we've seen him be kind of peripheral in games and Kane to dominate. And is the Kane-Son relationship going to be there straight from the off, like we saw last season?
This is it. We saw last season that Son struggled with against lower opposition that sort of sat back a bit and contained, and obviously there's no runs in behind. Do you think Watford are going to do that this time? I think there's 50-50 chance that they actually go for this game a little bit. What do you think, Gianni?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of I love Son against the big teams. Like I text Toby to say captain him against Man City because Son will score against City because it's the perfect game for him. So yeah, against the sort of lower blocks, slightly trickier. Although saying that, Wolves will have a go. Sorry, not Wolves. Wolves played Spurs. As we saw, Wolves played Spurs last week. Who Spurs got today? I don't even know. Watford. Yeah, okay. Watford probably won't. Watford are dire away from home, and I'm right in thinking it's the Spurs home fixture, aren't I? Yes, yeah. On Sunday. So no, for me, Kane's the obvious captain option this week. Like if anyone owns Kane or can get Kane, he's the one I'd want to captain. Son, the knock last week, he's obviously fine because he got 20 in the week in Europe. But again, that would be slightly part of my thinking, and the fear that he could be playing in the Steven Bergwijn role wide on the left. And Nuno has been playing a 4-3-3, and he has had Lucas one side, Bergwijn the other. Ideally, when we want Son and Kane together, we want them as a 2, but he loves Lucas, Nuno. He had a really good preseason as well. So it'll be Bergwijn that drops out, I think, and therefore Lucas stays on the right. Dele's getting forward still a bit from midfield. And I just think Son could have chalk on his boots. He could be really wide. And obviously we know he's not on pens now, not just because of Kane, but Dele too. So
I still fancy him. I still think it's the best captain move if you got him, because he is a strong differential, and I think Spurs get 2 goals at least in this game. I think there'll be a few goals actually in that one.
Watford have been dreadful away from home. Well, I know we've only seen it once, but they look poor. They came up with nothing attacking wise, did they? So you'd expect Spurs to dominate.
I think it depends on the dynamic of the game, but certainly Kane back, I think, helps Son. Son, there's various stats for saying he's good with or without Kane. I think he's just a good player in general, incredibly clinical. Kane had 10 big assists last season, most of any player, and all of them were basically for Son. So he's, Kane is like the provider, and I think Son can probably benefit from that. But as I said, it depends on the dynamic of the game. If Watford sit back for 90 minutes, then Son could just have a blank appearance and be subbed at 70 minutes. It's easily. So we'll just have to see. I'm just going with Son because I need to catch up some rank. We will see. But I think it's an interesting team. Long term, I think sacrificing Alexander-Arnold will have to be the case if I want to get Ronaldo as well as Lukaku.
Not like that at all, Ted. I keep hearing this. I keep hearing that Trent's easy to get rid of. I just no.
It was easy for short term against Chelsea and Leeds, maybe if you're looking at a short term fix. But then you've got the headache of how to get Trent back in for the Palace game and beyond. Would you be happy going without Trent long term, Ted? Because for me, I only considered it for like a 2-week punt. Because it's Trent.
Obviously, I hate getting rid of Trent. He can punish, but the upside of a defender compared to 3 premiums, I think, is the major issue here. And I would have, for my 3 midfielders, I'd have Traore, Rafinha and Benrahma, very lively, creative individuals. And instead of Alexander-Arnold, you could have Reece James, for example. And Reece James has tremendous upside as well. But, you'd have Ronaldo, Salah, Lukaku, Antonio as well. I think it's an all-round pretty good team. So it's just one player, Alexander-Arnold. He has had these various occasions in the last couple of seasons where he's had that 25-pointer, where he's had a few assists, 1 goal and a clean sheet, maximum bonus. But it doesn't happen week in, week out. And Liverpool's defence didn't look, completely clean the last couple of games, certainly by the eye test. So it has to remain to be seen whether the Liverpool... if they start conceding goals against the top 4 who have bolstered their ranks, then that's another reason why another clean sheet might not be on the cards for Liverpool. I don't know. Obviously, I rate Trent. It's just the structure of your teams which you have to consider.
The only thing with Trent, I'm noticing, sorry, Ted, is that he's coming in field a lot more. And it's almost like, I want to see if he's evolved again, because it looks like he might have done. That's the only issue I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And he maybe had an off-season last year because he had plenty of shots from free kicks, but none of them went in compared to the previous 3 seasons. So if he starts putting a few free kicks in as well, like he did, then maybe you have to start thinking again. But it's an interesting dilemma to have. I think we've got so much to think about this season, and I love that. The thing that I am worried about is that if the 3 premium options or 2 premium options basically become perma options, so you can't move between the premiums, that's the thing that I think will worsen the game diversity a little bit. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. KDB, Kane, they're still on the cards, aren't they, as options for premiums long term? Right, 1 minute before the deadline. Any Mahrez news, anyone?
Gianni, have you done your transfer yet?
There's been no rumours about Barnes being dropped. So
what are you doing? You're keeping him?
I'm keeping him for that Norwich fixture, and then he'll go next week for the City fixture. I'm looking at it going, Benrahma's got 2 nice fixtures. Barnes has only got 1, and I've got the free transfer. Just bring Benrahma in. But there's just something about me that's going, my team is so template already. I don't want to be making template moves as well as the template team. Like that 6 million midfielder should be the fun, one of the fun slots. Go for Salah, go for Traore. Maybe I will go Benrahma eventually, but it's Barnes today, and who knows next week.
Ted, do you think when the game updates, Ronaldo will be sitting there? I do.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I reckon they've been waiting for the deadline to pass to get him in the game.
God, that would be interesting.
Scout did a poll I saw. 12.5 was the most popular vote in the chat. I think he'll be 12, but
I think he'll be 12 as well. I think, forward. He's got to be a forward as well. We were just discussing previous, which is interesting because we've never had too many premium forward or genuine, legit premium forward options to go for. So now we've got Kane, Lukaku, and potentially Ronaldo compared to the midfielders of Salah, Fernandes, and KDB. That is evened up a little bit, even though there's more, obviously, midfield spots to choose from. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. I'm looking forward to this season in general. Lots of headaches.
If you add Ronaldo, Gianni, and you add Salah, How many captains would you give Salah over the rest of the season, would you think? Would you perma-captain Ronaldo?
It depends. If Ronaldo's away and Salah's at home, that plays part of my thinking. Salah the home fixtures. But whilst I want Ronaldo in my team, and I'm sure I'll have him in the next few weeks, I don't think I'm going to beeline for him like most. I will wait and see. I want to see him getting 19 just to see how Ollie integrates him. I'm slightly hesitant. And yes, of course, he'll be a starter and he's going to get so many minutes. But I just wonder if it will take a couple of weeks from Ollie will say, train with the squad a couple of weeks. We don't need to put you in for Newcastle and you're in come game week 5, maybe 6. And I only say that because of what we've seen with Sancho. That's all I'm going off. But for that reason, Bruno game week 4 versus Newcastle, for me, still looks really tasty. I don't know if I want to sell him for that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? Because we get value from our premium options by captaining them. And if we've got 3 in our team and you don't captain one, then where's the value? But you sort of have to have them, don't you? So it's going to be an interesting dilemma. Is 2 premium options better and bolstering the rest of your team and just making sure that you rotate those premium options? That's going to be an interesting thing. I think that
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that we have to have 3 yet. Depends what we're getting with Ronaldo, because you're absolutely right. I was, before Ronaldo appeared, I was like, well, I'm just going to have Salah and Lukaku, and they're going to be my captains all season. And I'll get rid of Bruno. I'll downgrade Bruno to like maybe a Greenwood if he was still in the game and so on. But now Ronaldo's arrived, that's gone, of course. So I was all set on having 2 and just rotating Lukaku and Salah. And I just wonder if the differential is going to be like who's going to have the balls to move off Ronaldo captain and give it to Salah or Lukaku, isn't it? I mean, I want the strategy to be more than that, but that's what it could turn into, like you say, Ted.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how the team dynamics shape up because
Sorry, carry on. No, I was going to say the price rises on the premiums is going to be really interesting because ideally we're going to be saving, because there's more premiums than ever, we're going to switch Lukaku and Kane a lot. We're going to switch Salah and Bruno a lot. We can only do that if we're not got loads of money invested in these guys. Do we want to be? I'm happy to use waste transfers on the premiums this season. Like that's a strategy I clearly want to take, but I can only do that if we're not seeing huge price rises for these guys. If we've got money tied up in Lukaku, do we want to sell him for Kane for 1 week to bring him back 2-3 weeks later? Probably not. So it's going to be a really interesting dynamic with price changes too. And so far what we've seen this season, price changes have been going, for me, crazier than ever. Like look at Benrahma and Antonio this game week. So that will be definitely one to keep an eye on because we've just never had so many premiums we want. You make a great point, Ted. Like we only ever really had Kane up front. Now we've got arguably Vardy too, but now we've got Kane, Vardy, if you still count him, and then Ronaldo and Lukaku. And it's going to be difficult. Being on the right guy at the right time with captaincy is going to be so crucial.
So seems like the season for rotating premiums, and this is a good segue. I just wanted to do a little bit of stats at the end of this.
Oh, go on, Ted.
Go on. I know you love a bit of stats, Mark. So I'm going to talk about variance, and this is basically just how a team's luck is in. Basically, I know people don't like the word luck in this, but this has got nothing to do with the amount of chances that a team creates. It's got nothing to do with their fixtures. It's basically if a team has loads of shots, how many of those shots go in compared to the average? We've got Wolves up here. Wolves throughout of last season, this is all of last season data, and you can see that in any sort of given period, the last 6 game weeks, if they've underperformed, they've generally overperformed in the next 6. Where there's a trough, there's a peak. Where there's a trough, there's a peak. Where there's a peak, but there's a trough. It always reverses. So can we use this methodology with our premium stuff? To say, oh, okay, Man United have underperformed by a couple of goals in the last 6. Maybe they're going to get 2 more that they shouldn't have had. Maybe it's time to bring in Ronaldo. Maybe it's time to move off Salah, for example. I've got Wolves here basically because I wanted to just justify the move for Traoré, but you could basically broaden this methodology to do it for premiums, and I think there's very justifiable means in that. And when you look at all of the teams from last season, it's not just Wolves. It's every single team. There's massive variance. It's like flipping a coin. If you flip a coin 6 times and you end up with 5 heads, 1 tail, the next time you flip it, it's probably going to be 5 tails, 1 heads. That's how it shouldn't
work though, should it, Ted? Right? There's no logic in that, really. It shouldn't.
There's no work, but there is definitely a trend. And I think there's obviously more attacking, shots than flipping a coin. So, but generally there is a trend. You can see that by this graph, and there's loads and loads of other evidence to suggest it. 6 game weeks is probably enough as well. We've only got 2 under our belt. That's
the trouble is, if you put Traore in any team, they're going to underperform their XG because he will get lots of chances and miss goals, miss chances that he should score. I mean, he's just that player, isn't he?
But I mean, he was in the team last year for Wolves, and Wolves didn't have Jimenez, and they ended up with an XG variance of between minus 0.5 and 0. So,
but he wasn't in the same role he's been playing under Lager, is he? So,
regardless, if a team massively underperforms for the majority of the season, they end up with a huge detrimental variance, and that's just not going to happen. It's just unheard of.
No, exactly. So it should even itself out. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely,
it's just
out.
Whether it evens itself out perfectly for the next few games. It's a really good theory. I'd love to see all the other teams.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we're just Large is changing that team, right? So we don't know. We don't know what Traore if he's going to continue in the role he is. I was really tempted by him because I think he's such a fun player to own, because you're going to get 3 or 4 shots a game, and eventually he's going to score a 30-yarder, isn't he? And go, whoa, and he'll get that big haul. It could be next, right? It could be against United even. Wolves were traditionally last season or last few seasons, I know, great against the big teams. So
they always beat Man City, don't they? With Traore and Jimenez up top. It's a perfect sort of counter team. When we get Jimenez scoring again, Traore is going to start getting assists too. Like, I don't think we can ever rely on Traore for goals because he just can't hit a barn door. But we perhaps can for assists because, we've seen him playing on the right, feeding Jimenez a lot. Now he's playing on the sort of inside left channel in the front too. We need goals from him, but it's going to be a really interesting one. I love the variance chart here, but at the same time, I'm thinking, does the position of Traore not skew the figures? Because last season we saw him at right wing back a lot. His job was never to score last season. His job now is to score, and we've seen in game week 1 and 2 he should have put a few away, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how he develops, because he's undoubtedly a talented footballer, and he is missing chances that even Traore can score with his eyes closed. So they will go in eventually, a bit like Timo Werner. They will go in eventually. And I think he's a really exciting pick. One reason I've not jumped from Barnes to Benrahma this week is because I want another week of watching Traore, because I'm so excited by those Wolves fixtures. But then if you're looking at Traore, we should all be looking at Jimenez too. And we're not. We're looking at DCL, and I think Jimenez is just as exciting.
It's fair to say that this conversation has lit the chat up a little bit. A lot of naysayers, and that's completely understandable. This is something that is very out there, so don't expect people to buy into this straight away. But interesting. I think Traore did have a stage last season and the previous seasons where he has managed to convert, and we're not going to own him over 38 game weeks. We're going to own him through 6 game week periods. So when you jump on him, he's going to probably do well in a few games, and this might indicate that, but we will see. But yes, interesting to get a lot of people's perspective and feedback on this, which is largely negative, I would say.
Well, it's controversial stuff, but I'd love to see it for some of the other teams. I just think if Traore stays in the role in attack, they're going to underperform their XG by quite a lot over the season. I think more so than last season, but because he's just that kind of player who will miss. It's funny, isn't it? Greenwood's goal at Southampton, that is a Traore type finish, and yet goes in for Greenwood.
Yeah,
and they haven't been going in for Traore yet. So,
well, an interesting discussion nonetheless. But I think we'll leave it there, chaps. Thank you so much for joining me, and it'll be interesting to see your teams. Best of luck for game week 3. Another green arrow to all of you. So, thank you very much for joining everyone else, and I'm sorry about the variance.
Did they go mad, Ted?
They went mad. We went mad.
Yeah.
Cancel Ted, I think, was one of them.
Oh, dear me, that's harsh. I don't need more of that.
I think this is going to be really useful. I think we'll look back at some of these charts and go, do you know what? You absolutely called it. It just won't work for every team.
No, and the thing is, I do that double figure nonsense, Ted. It's totally unscientific and unproven. It's just a bit of fun, right? So
absolutely, it's fun to speculate.
Yeah.
But thanks again, guys, for joining me. And yeah, we'll say goodbye. So it's a bye from me.
Oh, Ted, can I quickly mention Scoutcast Match Day on this channel in like an hour's
Oh,
time?
I'd love to join you, Gianni, but I can't watch or know any about football today. So maybe tomorrow.
Catch of the day challenge.
If you're not doing the Match Day challenge, join me and Seb.
Yeah.
Seb's in the chat making some funny comments already. If I can get the graphics sorted, we'll be live by 12:15, 12:20. And if you're watching, don't turn your phone off till midday because I will need help with the graphics in about half an hour's time.
Yeah, and tune in 10:30 tonight for Black Bots. Me and Az watching the goals go in. We won't know any of the scores or have FPL points total, so it's going to be agony. So yeah, if you're watching Match Today and want that on the second screen, it should be fun.
Love the plugs. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.